Hey, what up YouTube, and welcome back to a new video with Rams fan YT. In today's video, I will be going over my predictions for this week. Coming up in football, we've got FA Cup fourth round, we got EFL Cup semi-finals, EFL Trophy Quarter-Finals. So yeah, lots of good cup games coming up. And I'm just coming off my best week in terms of predictions last week as well. I did really well. So let's see if we can replicate that form in any way. Tonight, there's a couple of championship games going about. First is Burnley versus Oxford United. Good chance for Burnley to potentially get their hands into the automatic places, because a win here today would put them up to second. They're up against Oxford, which does provide an equally good opportunity. But yeah, Oxford at the moment are on a good run of form as well. That must not be discredited. They've not been beaten in a long time, but I think their first defeat in a while will come today. 3-2 to Burnley. I think it'll be a close game. Queen's Park Rangers versus Blackburn Rovers. QPR, let's not forget, had that good run of form only about a week or so ago. But a week is a long time in football, as they've lost the last two games. And they're now playing an out of sorts Blackburn team, but the Blackburn team across the duration of the season have been good enough to get to fifth. So it's going to be an interesting one. Both aren't the most consistent at the moment. I think Blackburn will come out dominating this one 4-0. I think Blackburn are just going to want to make sure that they get the points on the board, that they stay in the playoffs. I think that'll be a good season for them. In League Two, we've got Newport County versus Morecambe. A bit of a lower end of a table clash. There was a lot of discontent around Newport at the moment concerning their manager, but they seems to have turned things around, as they have won and drawn their last two games of 4 points in two games. That's average of 2 points a game. Not too bad, you know. Continue that throughout the season, they'll probably end up about mid-table. But it's easier said than done. They're up against Morecambe, which are in a very much of a scrap. They're only 3 points off safety themselves, so a win here today would take them out of a relegation zone, which would be a huge confidence boost for the Lancashire team. I think Newport County will win this one, though. 5-3. I think it's going to be an absolutely bonkers game. It could go anyway, and yeah, it'll be interesting. The other League Two game is Salford City versus Bromley. Bromley are obviously in a bad run of form. Sort of ever since they got knocked out of the FA Cup by Newcastle, they've suddenly started being a bit rocked. Only picked up 1 point in the last 5 games, which has seen them drop down to mid-table. They're up against Salford, who a bit similar to that FA Cup where they shot themselves, but they've had back-to-back draws now, but only 2 points in the last 4 games. If they wanted to get playoffs, they're going to need a win today. There's no other way about it, I would say. I'm going to go 2-1 to Salford. It is at the Peninsula Stadium, so yeah, I think they'll be just slightly in favour for the Ammies. In the National League, we've got Dagenham and Redbridge versus Forest Green Rovers. Yeah, you wouldn't automatically just assume that Forest Green are going to win this one, but they've had 4 draws in the last 6 games, which is quite a fair whack. So, and I do think Dagenham and Redbridge can pose a bit of a thorn in people's sides. That's sort of what they're there for, it seems. They're just one of them teams which make up the numbers. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. I think it might be poses a bit of a controversial option. But yeah, I think at Dagenham's ground, it could be an interesting one. FC Halifax Town versus AFC Fylde. Fylde are another one of them teams that they're really poor overall, but they just occasionally get a result here or there. They're up against Halifax, which is in the form of their life at the moment. They are probably, other than Barnet, the most informed team in the league. So it is certainly an eye to keep. Well, sorry, and a team to keep your eye on. Uh, and they could probably end up in the playoffs coming into the season, which would be interesting because they've had years of mid-table in the National League. In terms of this game, I think Fylde, if they get even a point, it would be hugely helpful in their push for survival. I'm going to go with 2-2 draw here. It could be any which way. It is also Yorkshire versus Lancashire, so there is a bit of that needle added in. But there's not as much needle as this game. The Greater Manchester rivalry, I don't know what the actual name is, but Rochdale versus Oldham Athletic, which is always an absolute cracker of a game. You look at Rochdale, they're in 7th, Oldham in 5th. But Rochdale are a more informed team at the moment. It could go either way, realistically. I think there will be a winner, unlike most of my rivalries when I do end up picking draws. I'm going 4-3 to Oldham Athletic. I think they've just been slightly better across the season. I think that title race is well out of reach now, but I do think a solid playoff finish would give Oldham definitely a chance of progressing back to the Football League. Wealdstone versus Tamworth. Yeah, I can see this being a really dull game. Tamworth are wildly inconsistent. Their defence isn't as good as it was last season, but they do pick up points here and there. They're in mid-table, they're in 15th. It is what it is at the moment. They're up against Wealdstone, who are just teetering above the relegation zone on goal difference alone, albeit they've got a much more healthy goal difference than Maidenhead. They've had 3 draws in the last 4 games, and I'm going to have another draw here. A 0-0 draw. Yeah. Port Vale are hosting Wrexham, and I think this is a postponed game from earlier, and I'm not changing my prediction for it. I'm going to go with a 1-0 draw with Port Vale to win on penalties. Please just don't postpone this game again. I'm fed up of predicting it. It's the same time, everyone. Rotherham United versus Bradford City. This is a Yorkshire derby in the EFL Trophy. It could be an incredibly interesting one as well. Bradford are doing quite well in League Two. I think that's fair to say. Rotherham probably not hitting the heights as they would have expected this season. They've been a yo-yo club for years and they've just hit mid-table. I'm going 2-0 to Rotherham, though. They have picked up form of late. It is at the New York Stadium. I think EFL Trophy will, although it won't signal an overly great season in the league, certainly you don't sniff at silverware. It's certainly worth it. Stevenage versus Birmingham City. Another team which will probably be aiming for maybe even the double this season is Birmingham City. If they get the EFL Trophy and the League One title, that would be a huge season. Stevenage stand in their way, which is a team which will definitely be wanting to do well in the EFL Trophy, purely because they've got nothing really aspiring them this season, in a sense. I just look at Stevenage and I just think, yeah, they're going to end up pretty much in mid-table. Because, 4 points away from the playoffs, I think. But there's also another, they're in 11th at the moment, so it's probably too difficult, but they're nowhere near the relegation zone either. So I'm going to say that Birmingham will win this one 2-0. I do think Stevenage do pose a chance, but I think Birmingham will be wanting that League One double. On to Alfreton Town versus Southport tonight in the National League North. Alfreton seem to have changed around their slow fortunes at the moment. They did have a bit of a bad losing spell. I think that's fair to say, but they won their last game. Is that going to signal complete turnaround? I don't know. I think at home here, though, they could definitely get something. I'm going to go 3-1 to Alfreton. Hopefully the Derbyshire team are back. Have they left it too late? I'm not sure. It's going to be... I think it more depends about what the teams above them do. I think it's a bit out of their hands now. Brackley Town are playing against Needham Market. and Brackley are in 6th. You'd expect this to be pretty much of a formality, but Needham Market are actually in decent form. They're 1 point off survival themselves. It's going to be a difficult game, though, isn't it? 3-1 to Brackley. Needham Market, I backed you a lot at the beginning of the season, but not so much now. Especially against a Brackley team that's very much probably going to reach the playoffs come the end of the season. I think that is fair to say. Something would have probably gone wrong if they didn't. Chorley are hosting Buxton in what is a fascinating game, 7th versus 8th, 2 points separating these two teams. Chorley, and they're both actually on pretty much similar game runs of form. Buxton, their last 6 games, have picked up 12 points, whereas Chorley, in their last 6 games, have picked up 10. So there's not too much difference in terms of the recent form between the two teams. I'm going with a Chorley win, just home advantage, I think. 3-2 to Chorley, but I hope Buxton prove me wrong and cement themselves into the playoffs. Oxford City are hosting Marine. Oxford City in 18th, Marine in 23rd. Now, this is actually a good chance for Marine to get out relegation zone, you would think. I do think it's not going to be that straightforward. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think Marine would appreciate the point, but ultimately you would probably want a bit better against a team in the lower half of the table, especially one who's conceded 47 goals this season. Yeah, that's not ideal, Oxford. Peterborough Sports are hosting Farsley Celtic. I think Farsley Celtic are very much the team which I have got probably to go down, because I think the bottom 4 have actually created, all are actually on, other than probably Warrington, sorry, but when I think about it, the 2 seasons ago, Radcliffe, Russell Olympic, Marine, and Needham Market 3 weeks ago, all looking very much destined to go down. Warrington have already slipped into that relegation zone, and I think Farsley Celtic probably shortly going to follow. And we're up against a Peterborough Sports team that very mid-table, let's be honest. I think Peterborough Sports will narrowly win this one. We're going to go 1-0. It's home advantage as well. Scarborough Athletic are playing against Radcliffe. Although Radcliffe have managed to pull themselves out relegation zone, they're by no means clear, and I think Scarborough could pose quite a task. They're going to be mid-table at the end of the season, Scarborough. That is almost a guarantee for me. I'm going 5-2 to Scarborough Athletic, in typical mid-table fashion, you know. South Shields are hosting Hereford. Hereford in 9th. They're only 3 points off the playoffs after they've won back-to-back games. South Shields is never an easy place to go. They'll probably finish mid-table this season. They're in 14th. But I think they'll probably get a point here. I'm going with 0-0 draw. I think South Shields will be probably a bit disappointed at where they'll finish this season, around about mid-table. But I think if you look at it, it's not the worst season, especially seeming the uncertainty off the pitch for that club at the moment. Bath City are hosting Chelmsford City in the National League South. Chelmsford are a team which I think a lot of people expected to do a bit better this season. They're in 12th. I don't think they'll probably be a few places above that come the end of the season, but I don't think higher than around about 10th. I don't see them reaching the playoffs. I think they will probably just about miss out. They're going, though, to Bath City, who have been pretty poor this season. They're 19th. I don't think they're in any danger of going down realistically. But no, I think they'll lose this game. 3-2 to Chelmsford City. Both a bit of a disappointing season for these two teams. Farnborough are hosting Chesham United. Chesham are actually on a decent run of form. Like, they've not lost a game in a while. Farnborough are pretty much in an opposite situation of they've not won a game in an absolute while. They had a really good first half of the season, Farnborough, and then since sort of a festive period, they've started slipping. I do think they'll get back to a winning ways here, though. 1-0 to Farnborough. I can't entirely tell you why. I just think there are always twists in the National League South. You can never write it off. Non-league is full of twists and turns, isn't it? Hampton and Richmond Borough versus Dorking Wanderers. A team which could potentially provide a twist here is Hampton and Richmond Borough, who are 6 points off the playoffs. As I said, unlikely for them to be able to bridge that gap, I'm going to say. Especially seeing they're up against Dorking today, which is a team which has definitely got an eye on the title. And they're right up there at the moment. They're only 2 goals away from getting it. And though 2-1 Dorking Wanderers are just a team which probably can't be beaten at the moment. Hornchurch versus Tonbridge Angels. Tonbridge Angels in 10th. There's not much point in them trying to continue for the playoffs because I don't think they'll actually be able to make it myself. But Hornchurch, they're on a drastically bad run of form. I think there was a point in time when I was saying that I was impressed with how Hornchurch were doing this season, and then ever since I sort of said that, they've sort of collapsed. So I'm sorry about that, but Tonbridge Angels to win this one 2-0, and Hornchurch's woes to continue. In the EFL Cup as well, we've got Newcastle United versus Arsenal tomorrow, and I think Newcastle are going to reach the final. They've already got a nice advantage coming into the second leg. They've got a 2-0 win at the Emirates, so now they're just hosting it at St James's, and that's always a good position to be in. I think we're going to go with a 1-0 win for Newcastle United here, and they're going to get into the EFL Cup final. It'll be absolutely fascinating to see if they can win it this season. I think everybody in the city I'm living in right now would love to see a trophy lift, even if they are not a Newcastle fan as such. Coventry City are playing Leeds in the Championship tomorrow, and I think you got to remember Frank Lampard has a little bit of a thing against Leeds. If you remember the Spygate a few years back when he was at Derby, I think there's a little bit of him which doesn't particularly like Leeds. I can go for that, for Coventry City to win this one, actually. 2-1 to Coventry City. Let's see if that can actually happen. But there was also Frank Lampard did the wonders of beating them in the playoff semi-final during that season as well, getting back from a deficit of, what was it? It was like 4-2 or something, or 4-1, and we turned it around. I can't remember entirely, but I just remember we managed to progress through Yat Ellen Road. But yeah, Peterborough United versus Cheltenham Town in the EFL Trophy. This one, I think Peterborough will be wanting something this season. Both of these teams probably will, but I think Peterborough, they're a better team. 3-0 to Posh. Liverpool versus Tottenham Hotspur in the other EFL Cup semi-final. Although Tottenham go into this one 1-0 up. Like, it was a home leg, which is something, and ultimately, I don't think Liverpool will be taking a sit down. 4-2 to Liverpool. I think it will be a Liverpool. Therefore, my predictions is a Liverpool versus Newcastle EFL Trophy. No, sorry, EFL Trophy, flipping it. EFL Cup final. This would be an absolutely fascinating one. I think we can say. I think most people probably predict Newcastle to win that one. Newcastle to lose that one, and Liverpool to win it. But we'll see. It's a cup at the end of the day. Chesterfield are playing Doncaster for some reason on a Thursday. There's a bit of localness between the two teams, but can't see why this is a Thursday night football. What is going on? Utter woke madness, as they say on the social media. I go with a 1-1 draw here. I don't think either of these teams are the worst. They're both probably looking for the playoffs. I think Doncaster are about 10 times more likely to get it at the current state. They're currently in second, actually, so they're probably looking for the title rather than playoffs. Chesterfield are in 10th. They're a bit of a distance away. But yeah, we'll go with a 1-1 draw, home advantage, Manchester United playing Leicester City in the FA Cup. Our first FA Cup game for us to predict is at the Old Trafford for Theatre of Dreams, as it used to be called. affectionately by the fans. Not quite got that same pull as it did about 20 years ago, but it certainly is still a difficult challenge, and I think Manchester United won this one. 3-0 to Manchester United. Amorim needs something to keep him in the job at the end of the season. I'm going to be brutally honest. If they finish mid-table, I know he didn't start the season with them, but they got to win a cup. It's Manchester United, and for not having any sort of silverware or European finishing is really detrimental to the club. Mansfield Town are also playing Northampton Town in the league. I think that's a bit of a Sky sort of thing, wanting to show football just because they can't show the FA Cup. We're going to have a 1-1 draw here. I don't see this. Because if you look at it, Mansfield are on a bit of a stinking run of form. They started the season really well, but they've lost the last 4 games in a row. You look at Northampton, bit of an sort of team all over the place in the moment. Yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. It could be a revival from Mansfield. It could be Northampton clearing themselves. Leeds United are hosting Millwall in at Ellen Road. Absolute early kickoff as well. This would have been one of the biggest scraps in world football in one point. But yeah, I think Leeds United will win this one. They're just better this season. 2-0 Leeds United, marching on to the 5th round. Leyton Orient versus Manchester City. I think a lot of people are fearful for Leyton Orient coming into this game. I saw Salford City in the last round, and they were absolutely battered by Man City. But Leyton Orient have been a decent run of form, which has taken them into the playoffs now. Of course, that means absolutely nothing. But I think a real upset is on the offing here. It's not at the Etihad, it's at Brisbane Road. So I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw here. And I think Leyton Orient to actually win on penalty stroke extra time. It's a mad one, I know, but the FA Cup does provide upsets. And Man City aren't the sort of team at the moment who are fully firing for this. To be honest, they'll probably play quite a weakened squad because they'll be wanting to get to the Champions League. Because at the moment, they're just not where they are. Great. Cheers, Imran Malik of Derby saying Derby is not my cup of tea. Well, so be it. You're watching a channel which is supported by a Derby County supporter. What do you want me to do? Coventry City versus Ipswich Town. Yeah, I think Coventry. I think this one has been selected because I think Coventry have been scouted out as maybe an upsetting team. I think. I don't think this is on TV or anything. I think it's just a team which I think of this game, and we think of Coventry's exploits in the FA Cup last season. I think they reached the semi-final, didn't they? Yeah, I think, and it's a good chance that they do that again against Ipswich. But do you think Ipswich will be wanting to find some form from somewhere and win against a Championship team that can maybe build from that? 2-1 Ipswich. Everton versus AFC Bournemouth. Yeah, this would be an All Premier League occasion. Bournemouth have been so great this season. 3-2 to Bournemouth. I think both of these teams will actually probably be more up for this game than a lot of Premier League teams would. It's just heritage if one of these two teams win it. Preston North End versus Wycombe Wanderers. Oh, this could be a tasty game because Wycombe are flying in League One. They're in second. Preston North End being their usual abject, boring self. A 2-2 draw here, I'm going to say, but I do think Preston North End win on either penalties or extra time. I think it's just a bit too much for Wycombe to be able to. There's a big gulf emerging. I know everyone talks about the gulf between the Premier League and Championship. There is also that gulf beginning to emerge between the Championship and League One. So I definitely think, I think if Wycombe did get promoted, they'd probably struggle next season. Southampton are playing Burnley. I've heard from Burnley fans themselves that they see this as a massive test um, for whether they're ready to be promoted or not. And if they don't win this, then they just think sack it off. There's absolutely no point in us getting promoted anyway, because we'll just go straight back down. I think this will be a 2-2 draw, and I do think Southampton will win this on penalties or extra time. I think be absolutely fascinating to see which way this one goes, because I do think Burnley have a realistic chance of winning it though. But Southampton did win their last game. Stoke City versus Cardiff City. This has got a draw written all over it. Like every single time these two teams play, it ends up in a draw. They're the most stalemate, boring teams. 0-0. We'll go Cardiff City to win on extra time or penalties. But there's not much between these two teams. I could really not know which way these two teams are going. Wigan Athletic are playing Fulham. Yeah, so this League One team will probably actually be playing quite a lot out of their skin at the DW Stadium to make sure that Fulham do not get past them. Fulham will probably play a bit of a weakened squad. I go with a 1-0 draw here and Fulham to win on penalties or extra time. But I think Wigan can hold their heads up high, keeping a Premier League team to added time. Birmingham City are hosting Newcastle. Another similar sort of match here. And I think a similar result. I'm going with a 0-0 draw. Very defensive play by Birmingham here, I think. But I think it ultimately come down to penalties or extra time, and Newcastle United will win it there. The road to victory is never straight, as they say. On to Brighton Hove Albion versus Chelsea. I think Chelsea will win this one 2-1. Yeah, I think Chelsea are definitely in the frame for being a team which could potentially win the FA Cup this season. I would not wipe that out at all. Sunderland are playing Watford in a championship game. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one because Sunderland can close the gap in this game because a lot of the teams who Burnley and Leeds United are both in the FA Cup action. So the only teams which will be playing, which is around them, is Sheffield United. So they'll definitely see this as a real opportunity, if you will, to get into the promotion spots. I know 2-0 to Sunderland here. I can see that feasibly happening. Watford have lost the last 3 as well to add things to that prediction. Yeah, Watford have been a bit outsourced this season. West Bromwich Albion versus Sheffield Wednesday. West Brom in 6th. They're just about holding on to the playoffs up against Sheffield Wednesday, which are 2 points behind them. I think Sheffield Wednesday feasibly are just about a team in. I think from Coventry City upwards, you will probably draw the line. I don't think Watford have quite got them. They're in that bad run of form at the moment. Coventry are not. So I think from Coventry City upwards, any of them teams could actually reach for playoffs. So the Sheffield Wednesday are within that pack. But I think West Brom will narrowly win this one. Home advantage at the Hawthorns as well. 1-0 to West Brom. Derby County are playing Norwich City. We're the only team who've not actually won a game or even picked up a point, I think, since Boxing Day now. It's absolutely criminal. I'm going to be ludicrous and suggest that we win this one against Norwich City. Currently, Norwich's form is win-win, loss-loss, win-win. So hopefully it's loss-loss again, and that Derby can manage to get something here. This is more by blind optimism and wanting Derby to do well than anything else. 1-0 to Derby County. Sheffield United are hosting Portsmouth, and I'm also hoping for a favour from Sheffield United. After they knocked us out, well, defeated us 1-0 last week, they can return the favour at home to Pompey this week. 1-0 Sheffield United. On to League One football, we've got Charlton Athletic versus Stevenage. I think you look at Charlton Athletic, and they've come from absolutely nowhere to potentially be a team which will reach the playoffs. They are literally in 7th, only goal difference outside the playoffs. Leighton Orient in the FA Cup this weekend. So yeah, Charlton definitely pose a chance to get into the playoffs this weekend. They are also hosting Stevenage. Bit of an interesting team. Most Stevenage have won the last 3 at the moment. I think I look at this and I see a 0-0 draw. I really do. I'm sorry, but it's just one of them things. Stockport County versus Barnsley. What a fascinating game this one could be. Stockport in 4th, Barnsley in 10th. How many people had it that way round predicted at the start of the season? Not many, I imagine. Yeah, Stockport just seem gulfs above. They've won the last 4 games. They're up against Barnsley, who are only 1 point up for playoffs. Again, we'll probably look at this as an opportunity to get back into it. I'm going with a 2-2 draw. I think it could be a very interesting game. I can't really decide which of these 2 teams will get all 3 points here, so that's why I've gone for a draw. But yeah, Stockport, I must say, are looking a fantastic team. If they conceded slightly less goals this season, I think they'd be within a chance of automatic promotion, to be honest. Bolton Wanderers versus Crawley Town. Yeah, Bolton are so wildly inconsistent. I mean, I'm going to back what I said that they're going to end up in that. There's several teams. At the moment, I think anybody from Reading down to Wigan are probably going to end up in mid-table this season. I think that's the only thing that I can say as a fair assessment. Because although you look at any team probably down to Stevenage at the moment could probably, or maybe even Lincoln, could still feasibly get playoffs. I think they're all too inconsistent to do so. And in that pack is Bolton Wanderers, who is, along with Rotherham United, one of the most inconsistent teams this season. 13 wins, 5 losses, 11. No, 13 wins, 5 draws, 11 losses. It's just a bit. It's that form which doesn't really get you into playoffs. And I think Crawley could again win this one. I think Crawley are a team which are looking as if they got hope. I'm going to go with a scrappy 1-0 win for Crawley here. I think that's not what a lot of Bolton fans or Burton or Northampton or Peterborough fans will be wanting to hear. Burton Albion, I know they've done well recently. They've not lost a game in a long time. They're up against Blackpool, though, who are also quite a good run of form. I go 4-0 to Blackpool. There is still frailties within this Burton team. They still have goals conceded. It's just they've started scoring some now. So yeah, unfortunately 4-0 for Blackpool. I do hope Burton stay up though. Huddersfield Town versus Reading. Another team which is I've labelled as a bit inconsistent at the moment is Reading. They won, drew, 3 losses, then won in their last 6 games in that order. They're up against Huddersfield, though, who have lost their last 3. Don't ever discredit the fact from Reading winning this one, but I do think Huddersfield will take all 3 points. 2-0 to Huddersfield. They're at home at the John Smith Stadium, if it's still called that. Yeah, I think Huddersfield will probably reach the playoffs come the end of the season. I think only really that 6th spot is up for grabs at the moment, and it is between about 5 different teams. So it's still anyone's game for that position. Lincoln City versus Cambridge United. Lincoln in 12th, Cambridge in 24th. Yeah, I think Lincoln will be pretty dominant in this one. Cambridge, they're looking like a team which is going down, I must say. 6-0 to Lincoln City. Pretty dominant performance by the Imps. Yeah, I'm sorry. 50 goals conceded. Only Peterborough have conceded more. It's just not looking good at Cambridge at the moment. And maybe the step down wouldn't be too bad in the first place. Rotherham United versus Shrewsbury Town. Rotherham is so inconsistent. 10 wins, 7 losses, 7 draws, 11 losses. What a inconsistent performance by Rotherham at the moment. And I think that inconsistency will continue because Shrewsbury, I've seen videos of the fans at the moment getting right behind the team and thinking, you know what, we could go and get survival. We can perform the Great Escape at the moment, which I think, if you think about it, is quite a mad thing to say. But they've got Gareth Ainsworth, who we know does a great job in League One. He did a great job with Wickham, is the one which notably stands out for me. QPR, he had a mixed result in the league above. That must be fair to say. But yeah, I think he probably could get Shrewsbury singing again. 3-0 to Shrewsbury Town here. I think the belief is on for two teams at the moment in the relegation zone, definitely, with Burton and Shrewsbury. I think Crawley and Cambridge probably do have belief. They're the two teams at the moment that I think have got that real belief. Bradford City versus Harrogate Town on an early kick-off in a Yorkshire derby in League Two. Yeah, there's not much distance which actually separates these two teams. I don't know if they've ever actually really considered each other a rivalry as such, but I think they're probably one beginning to develop. I think Bradford in 7th, you'd expect to win this one, but you don't count your chickens, really, because Harrogate are a team which know how to get some points. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think in a game like a Yorkshire derby, it would be fascinating. Swindon Town versus Port Vale. Port Vale, decent run of form. They're potentially earmarked for the automatic positions at the moment, but it must also be said, Swindon are an amazing form right now. I don't know how they've managed it. They've won 4 and drawn 1 of the last 5 games. Like, that is truly, truly must be said that Swindon Town at the moment are a team that, despite the lack of investment or whatever and fan protests, Ian Holloway, of course it's Ian Holloway, isn't it, is doing a fantastic job at Swindon Town. I don't think he was actually the manager at the start of the season, but I could have been completely wrong about that. Oh no, maybe he was. No, he wasn't at the start of the season. He came in October. He even actually said that the training ground was haunted. That's what I've just said. And he has also criticised the fans quite vocally. But, you know, it is what it is. Ian Holloway will be Ian Holloway. I think that Swindon will win this one. I'm going to go with 2-1 to Swindon Town. If they end up, I think they could feasibly end up mid-table this season. I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility for anybody to discredit. I think at the moment they're looking like a team which could definitely do that. Accrington Stanley are hosting AFC Wimbledon. Now, Wimbledon are a great team. They'll be on an eye on the automatic races themselves. They're up against Accrington Stanley, who won't want to be getting relegated, though. So I think Accrington Stanley will probably get some points here. 2-0 to Accrington Stanley. I just have a feeling that Accrington Stanley might pause a bit of an upset. They're just about on the right side of the points gap from the relegation zone. I mean, if they had 3 up, 3 down, as has been advocated by the National League clubs at the moment, they'd be in very much danger. But it's not, so I don't think they are at the moment. Barrow versus Gillingham. Barrow in 18th, Gillingham in 17th. Both on horrendous runs of form, it must be said. Gillingham on the worst of the two, but both are really poor. 2-0 Barrow, just because they're marginally less bad. But yeah, I think both of these teams need to understand that they're not in a good position at the moment. Colchester are hosting Walsall. Walsall looked really dominant for most of this season, and they still are. I think they will probably end up getting the title. But the last 3 games haven't been convincing, and so it's probably a good time for Colchester to play them because they're on a good run of form themselves, picking up 10 points in the last 4 games. In the last 4 games, Walsall have only picked up 4. So I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. I could feasibly see it happening. It'll take Walsall up to 60 points at this stage of the season, which is probably about where you would say, yeah, that's probably enough for them to get into the automatic positions come the end of the season. Crewe Alexandra versus Newport County. Crewe in 5th. I think they're going to win this one fairly comfortably. They were a team which were for ages looking like they were going to get into the automatic positions as well. They're hosting Newport, not the greatest team. 4-2 to Crewe Alexandra. Fleetwood Town versus Cheltenham Town. 15th versus 12th. Cheltenham being marginally better of late, but not much between these two teams. It must be stressed. Go 2-1 Cheltenham, just because I think they are slightly better at the moment. But as I said, margins of error is what will determine this game well and truly. Better defense is Fleetwood. They've got about equal attack, but knowing how to get points wise, Cheltenham are better. So it could be really anyone's game. Grimsby Town versus Carlisle United. Grimsby did win the last game, but they had been inconsistent before then. And so I do think Carlisle will view this as a slight opportunity to maybe get a win. They've not been great this season, let's just say that. 2-1 to Carlisle, though. I think they've got to get some belief from somewhere, and a win here would provide that belief. MK Dons are hosting Bromley. Bromley, as I said, not on a good run of form earlier in the video. Neither are MK, though. MK did at one point look destined for the playoffs, but they are far from that now. It was a proper fall from grace, if you will. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. I don't think either team will particularly be happy with a point, but I think ultimately both of these teams are going to finish in mid-table, so that's going to happen. It's a predictable result, really. Notts County versus Morecambe. Morecambe have been a horror show. I think Notts County going to absolutely wipe before this one. 5-0 to Notts County. Salford City versus Tranmere Rovers. I'm going to go with a bit of a bizarre bonkers almost prediction in this one. Salford, I don't think are going to reach the playoffs. I know they're only 8th, but I think there is something about them which is just a bit too hit and miss. After that Man City defeat, and I think Tranmere Rovers could properly exploit this if they're dropped into relegation zone because of a midweek game. They'll be playing out their skin. 5-1 to Tranmere Rovers. It's a mad one. You're well entitled to call me mad in the comments for this, but I do think if this is a thing which could happen, you never know. Aldershot Town versus AFC Fylde. This could be ridiculous, this game. It could end in a 0-0 draw. It could be a demolition job by one side or the other. I have really no idea. There's 5 points separating the two. Both teams don't have great defences. Aldershot Town's offence is actually quite decent. Must be stressed. But I do think AFC Fylde will win this one. 5-0. Okay, I'm going to need to stop doing crazy now, because I'm just going to look like a right mug. Maybe this good game we've just had has gone to my head. Altrincham versus Braintree Town. But we'll continue with the madness, because Altrincham, I know they're a team which could potentially get the playoffs, but I'm looking at Braintree right now, and they're going to be getting all the points they can to get away from that drop zone. 4-0 to Braintree Town. I think they're going to be going for it. Boston United versus Barnet. I think Barnet fairly comfortably win this one. What are we saying? I mean, Barnet, top of the league. Boston, second bottom from the league. 3-1 to Barnet. Dagenham Redbridge versus Yeovil Town. I think we've sort of discredited now Yeovil from reaching the playoffs after that really torrid run of form of late. But we know that they can be good. They're up against Down Redbridge, it's 14th versus 16th. I go Yeovil to win this one 2-0. Forest Green Rovers versus Eastleigh, and as I said earlier in the video, Forest Green Rovers have had a lot of draws recently. It's so Eastleigh. Well, Eastleigh are one of the draw specialists this season. Both Forest Green Rovers and Eastleigh so far have had 11 draws this season. The only teams that have equalled or have more, Wealdstone have had 11, Aldershot have had 12, and Hartlepool have had 12. So I think this has got a draw written all over it. A 1-1 draw here. Forest Green are just not, at the moment, picking up all 3 points, which is not what you need in a title charge. Maidenhead United versus Southend United. I think Southend wins this one. They're only 3 points off the playoffs. I think they've crept onto it a bit, flying under the radar in a sense. Maidenhead are in relegation zone. They may potentially want to get something from this one, but 2-1 to Southend. Ebbsfleet United versus Rochdale. This is at Rochdale Stadium. Rochdale in 7th, but so inconsistent at times. I think Ebbsfleet will pick up all 3 points here, just to scrap and a 1-0. A scrappy 1-0 maybe all that it needs to just turn that season around. They've only had one win all season though, so it's going to be a tough one. Just a bit of naivety for me to predict, to be fair. Solihull Moors versus Oldham Athletic. Things don't get easier for Oldham. Playing Rochdale in midweek and now Solihull at the weekend. It's not an easy battle to take. I do think they win this one marginally. 3-2 to Oldham Athletic. Another great, exciting game for Oldham to be part of. But a proper nail biter as well. You wouldn't want to be an Oldham fan, would you? Sutton United versus Hartlepool United. 10th v 12th. Only 2 points separating these two teams. Sutton on a much better run of form. Potentially reaching the playoffs. I don't even never discount it. 2-0 to Sutton United here at home. Wealdstone versus Gateshead. I think Gateshead are going to be rampant dominant in this performance almost. Up against Wealdstone, which 1 point above relegation zone. We're going to go 4-2 to Gateshead. York City are hosting Woking. Woking have managed to clear themselves from any relegation woes with 31 points at this stage in 17th. It does look about predictable that they will stay up. York in second. I think there's just a bit too much to do for them to. Although they've got 2 games in hand so Barnet, so maybe not. But we'll see. They'll need to win both of them games in hand, and then we can see if they truly got what it takes to win the title. But 2-0 here to York. Just keep on picking up the wins. It's not an easy game. Woking haven't lost a game in a while, but it's still York. It's could be their undoing. Tamworth versus FC Halifax Town. I think Halifax will win this one. One of the greatest teams at the moment, other than Barnet, in this league. I'm going to go for comfortable Halifax win against Tamworth. We're going to go 6-2 to Halifax. On to the National League North, got Brackley Town versus Peterborough Sports. I think, as I mentioned earlier, Brackley are a team which is destined for the playoffs, and I think that's going to continue into this game here against Peterborough. 3-1 to Brackley. Curzon Ashton versus Kingsland Town. What an interesting game. 4th v 5th, both on 50 points. Both have had very inconsistent. I think they've both had 2 losses, 2 wins, and 2 draws in the last 6 games. You couldn't really pick a side in this one, but I am going to. Home advantage. I'm going to go with a 1-0 to Curzon Ashton. Just slightly. They've just got a very solid defence, Curzon Ashton. I think they've got the best defence in the league. Only conceded 20 goals. Only Kidderminster Harriers really comes close with them conceding 21. Scunthorpe conceded 23, but that is a very solid defence from them 3 teams. They just don't score a lot. They've only scored 38. So they keep games narrow. A narrow 1-0 win for Curzon Ashton. Darlington versus Marine. Darlington are 10th. They at one point looked like the playoffs, but have just been a bit inconsistent over the last 4 games or so, which has sort of tampered them away. They're up against Marine, 1 point off safety. I think Marine get a point here. I really do. Just the inconsistency of Darlington does show at times. A 2-2 draw here could be interesting. That relegation battle come the end of the season. There was a fascinating one last season as well, wasn't it? Farsley Celtic versus Needham Market. I think Farsley will win this one. Although I could feasibly see Needham winning it as well. I'm going to go Farsley to win this one. 1-0. Will Farsley just about scrape to stay in this league? I will Needham Market go from bottom of the league to survival in a quite a miraculous turn of events. Hereford are hosting Spennymoor Town. Spennymoor in 12th, Hereford in 9th. Yeah, I don't think there's too much between these two teams at the moment. I really don't. On the current balance of play, Spennymoor have picked up slightly more points in the last 6 games, but at the end of the day, it's not that much between the two teams. Not going to lie. 2-1 to Hereford. We're going to have home advantage. They've still got that eye on the playoffs as well, Hereford, which I think goes in their favour. Kidderminster Harriers versus Chorley. Chorley in 8th at the moment, Kidderminster Harriers in 3rd. I think Kidderminster just get the points here. 1-0 to Kidderminster Harriers. They're another team which they're better at scoring department, but also keep it fairly rigid at the back. Oxford City are hosting Leamington in a bit of a local rivalry. There's not too much distance between these two, I don't think. 17th v 18th as well. There's not much between these two teams. I do think Oxford slightly better run of form than late. 3-1 Oxford City. Home advantage as well. Could be interesting though. Radcliffe v Southport. I think Radcliffe will be wanting to make sure that now they're out relegation zone, they stay that way. Southport is definitely a team that they can get that from. They're in 16th, Southport. Yeah, they're not ideal at the moment. A 2-2 draw here. Neither team are overly great at defence. So yeah, just a cancelling out. Buxton are travelling to Rushall Olympic. I think Buxton gain all 3 points fairly comfortably here. No disrespect to Rushall. 3-0 to Buxton. Scarborough Athletic are playing Alfreton. Another Derbyshire team who is looking for the playoffs is Alfreton. Up against Scarborough, definitely poses a chance. I'm going to go with 1-0 to Alfreton. The Alfreton is old, is back, because I think from my predictions then, that will be 3 wins in a row. So, South Shields versus Chester. Chester have been great. They have won so many games of late, haven't they? It's just every time it seems that they're winning a game that I look, it's just like makes me look like a Mike Mug at the beginning of the season for not predicting them to win the title when so many did. I'm going with another 1-0 win for Chester here. I just don't see them being beaten at the moment. Warrington versus Scunthorpe United. I think Scunthorpe do win this one. They continue to apply the pressure. And they're up against a Warrington team in 22nd, looking down and out at the moment. 2-0 Scunthorpe. On the National League South front, we've got Aveley versus Enfield Town. This is going to be an interesting one. It's not as interesting a relegation scrap in the National League South. I think we can pretty much reconcile ourselves to the bottom 4 being who are going to be the bottom 4 from the end of the season. Enfield 21st, Aveley 23rd. Enfield are 6 points adrift. Aveley are 10. It's just a bit too much at the moment for this time of the season, it seems. I'm going with a 1-0 draw here. Not much between the two teams. Bath City versus Hornchurch. I think Bath City win this one, actually. Hornchurch are not in a great run of form. 3-1 to Bath. Boreham Wood are hosting Weston-super-Mare. Boreham Wood, top of the league. Weston-super-Mare are 8th. Boreham Wood to win this one 4-0. I'm sorry, Weston-super-Mare, but they're just so in form at the moment, Boreham Wood. You'd be a fool to predict against them. We have got Chesham United versus Weymouth. Now, Chesham, I think, will suddenly start falling to pieces at some point. I don't think they're going to be able to constantly succeed. And Weymouth won their last game, and maybe that provides the confidence. I'm going to go for a mad prediction this one. 5-0 to Weymouth. Call me mad again, but Weymouth, I think they pulled off a great escape last season, and they were around about this position then. So suddenly ripping up points. It is in Weymouth's DNA. Farnborough versus Chelmsford City. I think there's not much between separating these two teams. It's 12th v 14th at the moment, both on 38 points. We're going to go with a 1-1 draw. Hampton Richmond Borough versus Truro City. This is huge for Hampton and Richmond because if they win their midweek game, which admittedly is quite unlikely, but if they beat Truro here, they do suddenly put themselves only 3 points behind. So I'm going to go 2-1 Hampton and Richmond Borough. I think they're a team which I can certainly see closing down at the moment that gap between the playoffs and potentially sneaking into it. Hemel Hempstead Town versus Chippenham Town. Chippenham have won the last 2 games. Hemel Hempstead had a good run of form until the last game, which was a difficult one, admittedly. I think it was against Boreham Wood, wasn't it? And they stuck into it as well. 2-0 to Chippenham, though. I think it's just something mid-table in Chippenham's DNA. Salisbury versus Dorking Wanderers. I'm going to go with a 3-3 draw. I think it's going to be a bit of an upset for Dorking here. I think Salisbury have had, I think out of their last 6 games, they've had 5 draws. It's like, what is going on with that club? They're such a draw specialist. So, yeah, a 3-3 draw. We've got Slough Town versus Maidstone United. 15th versus a comfortable 3rd place team. You do fear for Slough in this game, you really do. I'm going to go for them to win, though, at Arbor Park. 2-1 win. I think Slough could get back to winning ways here. They are such a... they've conceded 50 goals, but they've scored 48. It's actually a mad team at the moment. So, yeah, never count against the Rebels from causing an upset. Tonbridge Angels versus Worthing. Worthing in 4th, Tonbridge Angels in 10th. I think Worthing are... I think they're actually the best team on form at the moment in the league over the last 6 games. So, yeah, don't discredit Worthing from getting into the title, actually. It's 55 points from 1st to 5th, by the way. And Torquay are only 3 points behind. We've got a game in hand on about half of them teams. So, I'm going Worthing to win this one 1-0. It's really, really precarious at the moment. Each game week is a nail biter for all of these teams. Torquay v Eastbourne, for example, 5th v 6th. This is a pivotal game. If Torquay win this, they suddenly throw themselves right into that title race. If Eastbourne win this, they throw themselves right into that title position. But I think predictably it will end a draw. A 2-2 draw here at Plainmoor. Welling United versus St Albans City. St Albans in relegation in 22nd, Welling in 20th. 4 draws of late for St Albans, and I think it's going to be another one here, not going to lie. Going to go with a 0-0 draw. You're just drawing left, right, and centre, St Albans. They've drawn the most amount of games this season, 12 actually, in the National League South. What a team that St Albans has been in the past. So it'd be interesting to see them no longer in National League South, in a sense. Blackburn v Wolverhampton Wanderers in the FA Cup on the Sunday. I'm going with a 1-1 draw here at Ewood Park and Wolves to win on penalties or extra time. I think Blackburn could be a bit of a sticking point for Wolves. And it wasn't that long ago that Blackburn did quite well in the AFA Cup, was it? I think Plymouth Argyle versus Liverpool. Liverpool will come into this. Probably caught a bit off guard. Plymouth is a very difficult place to go for any team. I do think they'll win. Liverpool to edge out 1-0. I don't think it'll be a dominant performance. Aston Villa versus Tottenham Hotspur. We know Hotspur, we just call them Spurs, have a weird thing for cups. They do all right in the cups, but there's one of them teams that is just end-to-end an enigma almost. 4-0 to Tottenham here. Bristol City versus Swansea City in the Championship it's a bit of a local rivalry, isn't it? I don't know what the local rivalry is actually called. I'm going to go Bristol City, home advantage. I think they've got half an eye on the playoffs as well. 1-0 to the Robins at Ashton Gate. Doncaster Rovers versus Crystal Palace. I'm going to back Palace for this one. Sorry, Doncaster, 2-0 to Crystal Palace. And for some reason, there's another National League South game on a Monday. We're going to Hemel Hempstead Town to beat Chelmsford City in this one. 2-1. I think Hemel Hempstead certainly aren't a disgraceful team of late. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you're new around here. We've literally just hit that hour mark. They're all my predictions. Let me know yours in the comments down below. And I think I might be able to upload a video potentially on Friday for the Premier League's best January transfer window. This is ironing. But goodbye for now.